The cottage always smelled like cinnamon and pine needles, even in summer. Now, standing in its empty living room for what might be the last time, all I could smell was dust and betrayal. My name is Nancy, and until yesterday, I thought I knew what family meant. That was before my brother Mauricio showed up at my door at 3 a.m., drunk and crying, confessing that he'd gambled away our inheritance, our grandmother's beloved cottage that held 25 years of our childhood memories. "Nancy, please, you have to help me," Mauricio pleaded, his hands trembling as he gripped my kitchen counter. "I can fix this. I just need time." I poured him a glass of water, trying to steady my own shaking hands. "How much do you owe?" 250,000. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The number hit me like a physical blow. "The cottage is worth twice that. How did you even—" "I used it as collateral." His voice cracked. "I was sure I could win it back. The guy I owe, he's giving me 3 days to pay up, or he takes ownership." I gripped the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. "Does Aunt Olivia know?" He shook his head. "You're the only one I've told. Please, Nancy, you're good with money. Maybe we could get a loan or—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop. That was last night." Now, walking through the cottage's rooms, I touched the walls where our height measurements were marked in pencil. The window seat, where I'd read countless books on rainy afternoons. The creaky third step that we'd always jumped over during hide and seek. My phone buzzed. A text from Connor. "How are you holding up?" "At the cottage. Need to clear my head," I typed back. "Want company?" I hesitated, then replied, "Yes." 20 minutes later, Connor's truck crunched up the gravel driveway. He found me sitting on the porch swing, the same one where Grandma used to tell us stories about her youth. "Brought coffee," he said, handing me a cup. "And donuts. Comfort food." "Thanks." I took a sip, letting the warmth spread through my chest. "I can't believe he did this, Connor. The cottage was supposed to stay in the family. Grandma made us promise." Connor settled beside me on the swing. "What are you going to do? What can I do? I don't have that kind of money lying around." I watched a chickadee hop along the porch railing. You know what hurts the most? He didn't even ask before using it as collateral. The cottage belongs to both of us. "Have you checked the paperwork? Maybe there's something—" My bitter laugh cut him off. Mauricio handled all the inheritance paperwork after Grandma died. Said he'd take care of everything, since I was dealing with my divorce at the time. I shook my head. Stupid, trusting him like that. "That's not stupid, Nancy. That's being family." "Yeah, well, look where family got me." My phone buzzed again. "Mauricio. Meeting with the guy today. Please tell me you have good news." I turned off the phone. Connor watched me carefully. "You know, my offer still stands. I could loan you." "No." I stood up abruptly. "I'm not solving Mauricio's gambling problems with more money. That's not helping him." "Then what?" I walked to the porch railing, gripping the weathered wood. "I don't know, but I need to do something. This cottage, it's not just about the money. Every important moment of our lives happened here. First kisses, broken hearts, celebrating victories, mourning losses, Grandma's last Christmas." My voice broke and Connor was beside me in an instant, his hand steady on my shoulder. "Remember when Callie fell out of that oak tree?" I pointed to the massive tree in the front yard. "Mauricio caught her. He was always there, always protecting us. What happened to that brother?" "Addiction changes people, Nancy." "Yeah." I wiped my eyes. "Well, maybe it's time I stopped enabling him." My phone started ringing in my pocket, Aunt Olivia's ringtone. She probably knew something was wrong. She always did. But I couldn't talk to her yet, couldn't bear to tell her how badly her nephew had betrayed us. "I need to go through Grandma's things," I said suddenly. "There might be something. I don't know, but I need to try." Connor nodded. "Want help?" "No, this is something I need to do alone." I gave him a weak smile. "Thanks for the coffee, and for being here." After Connor left, I stood in the cottage's doorway, looking at the dust motes dancing in the afternoon light. Somewhere in this house were answers. They had to be. Grandma was too smart, too careful to leave everything to chance. I closed the door behind me and headed for the attic. If I was going to find anything, that's where it would be, and I had 3 days to find it. The attic stairs creaked under my feet as I climbed, each step releasing clouds of dust into the afternoon light. I'd always loved this space as a kid. It felt like a treasure trove of family history. Now, it might hold the key to saving our legacy. "Where do I even start?" I muttered, scanning the jumble of boxes and trunks. My phone buzzed again. Mauricio. I silenced it without looking at the message. In the far corner stood Grandma's old hope chest, its brass hardware dulled with age. I remembered her telling me once, "Everything that matters is in that chest." At the time, I thought she meant old photos and keepsakes. Now I wondered if there was more to it. The lid was heavy and the hinges protested as I lifted it. Inside, the familiar scent of cedar and mothballs brought tears to my eyes. Photo albums, quilts, letters, tied with faded ribbons, and underneath it all, a leather document case I'd never seen before. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first paper I pulled out made my heart stop. "Official deed," I read aloud, my voice echoing in the dusty space. "This property, hereby transferred solely to Nancy Whitney." The date on the document was 3 months before Grandma died. My name, not Mauricio's, was clearly listed as the sole inheritor of the cottage. "That's impossible," I whispered, but there it was, in black and white. Legal documents, properly notarized, leaving the cottage to me alone. Which meant... My phone rang, startling me so badly I dropped the papers. Aunt Olivia's name flashed on the screen. This time I answered. "Nancy, dear, what's going on? Mauricio's been calling me in a panic." I took a deep breath. "Aunt Olivia, did you know about Grandma's will?" "The real one?" A long pause. "So you found it." "You knew." My voice cracked. "Your grandmother made me promise not to tell unless absolutely necessary. She knew Mauricio had... problems. She wanted to protect the cottage." I sank down onto an old trunk, clutching the papers. "But after she died, Mauricio said we inherited it together. He handled all the paperwork. Because you let him," Olivia said gently. "Nancy, you've always tried to protect him, even from himself. Your grandmother saw that too. That's why she left the cottage to you alone." He forged the inheritance documents, I realized, anger building in my chest. He committed fraud. What's brought this all up now? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Mauricio's voice called up, "Nancy, you up here?" "I have to go," I whispered into the phone. "I'll call you back." Mauricio's head appeared through the attic opening. He looked terrible, pale and sweaty with dark circles under his eyes. "Been looking everywhere for you," he said, climbing up. "Why aren't you answering your phone? I need to know if you've figured something out about the money." I stood slowly, the document still in my hand. "Oh, I figured something out all right." He saw what I was holding and froze. "Where did you get those?" "Grandma's chest." I held up the deed. "Want to explain why you forged inheritance papers when the cottage was legally left to me?" All the colour drained from his face. "Nancy, I can explain." "Explain what? How you committed fraud? Or how you gambled away property that wasn't even yours to begin with?" He took a step toward me. "You don't understand. I needed..." "Don't." I backed away. "Don't you dare try to justify this. What are you going to do?" His voice was small, scared. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. The boy who used to protect me, who caught Callie falling from a tree, who taught me to ride a bike. Now he stood before me, a stranger shaped by addiction and lies. "I'm going to call Zuriel," I said firmly. "He's still practicing law and he needs to see these documents." "Nancy, please. You have until tomorrow morning to tell the family what you did. All of it. If you don't, I will." I walked past him toward the stairs. "And Mauricio, don't try to stop me." "It'll destroy everything," he called after me. "The whole family will fall apart." I paused at the top of the stairs. "You already did that when you betrayed us." As I descended the attic stairs, my phone buzzed with a text from Connor. "Any luck?" I typed back, "Found something big. Meet me at the diner in 20. His response was immediate. "On my way." The documents felt heavy in my hands as I walked to my car. Heavy with truth, with power, with the weight of decisions to come. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than despair. I felt strong. The bell above Joe's diner chimed as I pushed through the door. Connor already had our usual booth, 2 steaming mugs of coffee waiting. I slid the documents across the table before even sitting down. "Read these," I said. His eyes widened as he scanned the papers. "Holy shit, Nancy." "Yeah." I wrapped my hands around the coffee mug, trying to stop them from shaking. "There's more. I found letters in Grandma's chest. She knew about Mauricio's gambling long before any of us did." I pulled out a bundle of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. The waitress approached, but Connor waved her away with a quick shake of his head. "This one's from 6 years ago," I said, unfolding a letter dated just before Grandma's diagnosis. "Listen to this. My dearest Nancy, I've watched you carry the weight of others' burdens for too long. The cottage must be protected, not just for you, but for the future. Mauricio will never understand why I made this choice, but you will." Connor leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "She was protecting you. She was protecting all of us." I took a shaky sip of coffee. "There's a letter here from Mauricio to her, begging for money. He was in debt even then." "What are you going to do?" Before I could answer, the diner's door chimed again. Callie walked in, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Nancy, I thought that was your car outside." She bounced over to our booth, then stopped short when she saw our serious expressions. "What's wrong?" "Sit down, Cal," I said softly. She slid in beside me, her usual energy dimming. "Is this about Mauricio? Aunt Olivia called me. She seemed worried." I spread the documents out on the table. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise to let me finish before you react." As I explained everything, the real deed, Mauricio's fraud, the gambling debt, Callie's face went through a range of emotions: shock, anger, hurt, and finally, determination. "That absolute jackass," she breathed. "No wonder Grandma didn't trust him with the cottage." My phone buzzed. A text from Mauricio. "Please don't do this. Give me time to fix it." I showed the message to Connor and Callie. "Fix it?" Callie scoffed. "He's had years to fix it. Decades even." "The deadline's tomorrow," Connor reminded me. "What's your plan?" I straightened the papers, squaring their edges with precise movements. "First, I'm calling Zuriel. We need to know exactly where we stand legally. Then..." The diner's door chimed again. This time, Mauricio walked in. He looked even worse than he had in the attic, if that was possible. "Nancy," he called out, heading toward our booth. "We need to talk." Callie stood up, blocking his path. "Back off, Mauricio." "This is family business, Cal. Stay out of it." "I am family," she snapped. "The family you're destroying." Other diners were starting to stare. Connor stood up too, his presence solid and reassuring. "Maybe we should take this outside," he suggested quietly. We moved to the parking lot, where the summer evening was cooling into dusk. Mauricio paced in front of us like a caged animal. "The guy I owe," he said, "he's willing to make a deal. If I can get half the money by tomorrow..." "Stop." My voice was stronger than I expected. "Just stop, Mauricio. There is no deal. The cottage isn't yours to bargain with. It never was. You don't understand what these people are capable of." "And whose fault is that?" Callie demanded. I held up my hand, silencing them both. "I'm calling Zuriel tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the police to report the fraud. After that, I'm telling the whole family everything." Mauricio's face crumpled. "They'll never forgive me. Maybe that's what you need," I said softly. "Maybe hitting rock bottom is the only way you'll ever change." "Nancy, please." He reached for my arm, but Connor stepped between us. "I think you should leave," Connor said firmly. We watched Mauricio walk to his car, shoulders slumped in defeat. As he drove away, Callie turned to me. What about the guy he owes money to? That's Mauricio's problem now, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. I'm done enabling him. My phone buzzed again, Zuriel responding to my earlier message. Free to talk now, this sounds serious. Go, Connor said. We'll handle things here. Callie hugged me fiercely. We're with you, Nancy, all the way. As I drove home to make the call that would change everything, I thought about Grandma's letters. She'd seen this coming years ago, had tried to protect us all in her own way. Now it was my turn to protect our family's legacy, even if it meant tearing down the walls of secrets we'd built around ourselves. Tomorrow would be hard. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was doing exactly what needed to be done. Zuriel's office smelled like leather and coffee, and the morning sun threw long shadows across his desk as he reviewed the documents. I'd known him since high school, but his professional demeanor still took some getting used to. This is clear-cut fraud, he said, looking up from the papers. The original deed is ironclad. Your grandmother's intentions were explicit. What about the gambling debt? Any contracts Mauricio made using the cottage as collateral are void. He had no legal right to make those agreements. Zuriel leaned forward. But Nancy, you need to know. These people he owes money to, they don't care about legal rights. My phone buzzed. Aunt Olivia. Family dinner tonight. No excuses, everyone needs to talk. Perfect timing, I muttered, showing Zuriel the message. Are you ready for this? Before I could answer, his office door burst open. Mauricio stormed in, followed by his frantic secretary trying to stop him. I'm sorry, Mr. Mack, she stammered. He just pushed past me. It's okay, Sarah, Zuriel said calmly. Please close the door. Mauricio looked wild, desperate. You can't do this, Nancy. These guys, they're coming to collect today. They don't care about legal documents. Lower your voice, Zuriel warned. Or what? Mauricio laughed bitterly. You'll call security. Go ahead. It won't stop what's coming. I stood up, facing my brother. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to protect you. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Neither do you, Zuriel interjected, holding up the documents. This is serious fraud, Mauricio. We're talking potential jail time. All the color drained from Mauricio's face. You wouldn't. Try me. I met his eyes steadily. Be at Aunt Olivia's tonight. You can tell everyone yourself, or I will. Nancy. Get out of my office, Zuriel said firmly, before I call the police. After Mauricio left, Zuriel turned to me. You need to be careful. People like this, they play dirty. I know. I gathered the documents. That's why I'm done playing nice. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparations. Connor helped me make copies of all the documents. Callie texted updates about who was coming to dinner. Even Aunt Olivia called to ask if I needed anything, though I could tell she was nervous about what was coming. At 6 o'clock, I pulled up to Aunt Olivia's house. Cars lined the street. Everyone had shown up. Through the front window, I could see people gathering in the living room. My hands shook as I grabbed my folder of documents from the passenger seat. Connor's truck pulled up behind me. Thought you might want backup. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. He squeezed my shoulder. Ready? Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Mauricio sat alone in a corner, while other family members clustered in small groups, whispering. Aunt Olivia bustled around with drinks, trying to maintain normalcy. Nancy, Callie hurried over. Uncle Robert's here. Even Cousin Pete came. Good, I said. Everyone needs to hear this. Aunt Olivia clinked her glass with a spoon. Dinner's ready, everyone. Let's move to the dining room. As people settled around the massive table, I remained standing. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear over it. Before we eat, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, there's something you all need to know. I pulled out the documents, laying them on the table. 6 years ago, Grandma left the cottage to me. Only me. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Mauricio forged documents to make it appear we inherited it together, and now he's gambled it away to criminals. The silence that followed was deafening. That's a lie, Uncle Robert said finally. No, Mauricio spoke up, his voice hollow. It's true. All of it. Chaos erupted. Aunt Olivia started crying. Uncle Robert shouted about family loyalty. Cousin Pete swore loudly. Enough! Callie's voice cut through the noise. Let Nancy finish. I spread out the documents. It's all here. The original deed, Grandma's letters, the fraud, everything. How could you? Aunt Olivia asked Mauricio, tears streaming down her face. Your own grandmother. I needed the money, he whispered. I thought I could fix it before anyone found out. And now, Uncle Robert demanded, what happens now? I straightened my shoulders. Now, I'm taking legal action to protect the cottage and to finally force Mauricio to face consequences. You'll destroy this family, Uncle Robert warned. No, Connor spoke up from behind me. Secrets and enablers destroy families. The truth might be the only thing that can save it. As arguments erupted around the table, I caught Mauricio's eye. For the first time since this began, I saw something there besides desperation. I saw fear. The next morning, I sat in the police station, watching Detective Torres review the documents. Each tick of the wall clock felt like a hammer blow. This is extensive fraud, she said finally. And you're sure you want to press charges? Yes. My voice didn't waver. It's time. She was about to respond when her phone buzzed. The conversation that followed made my blood run cold. There's been an incident at the cottage, she said, hanging up. We should go, now. The drive to the cottage was a blur. As we turned onto the gravel drive, my heart stopped. The front door was splintered, windows broken. Spray paint marred the white siding. Pay up or burn. 2 police cars were already there. Connor's truck pulled up behind us, and he rushed to my side. I came as soon as you texted, he said, then saw the damage. Jesus Christ. Detective Torres was already talking to the other officers. I walked up to the porch, glass crunching under my feet. The porch swing, Grandma's swing, lay broken on its side. Nancy. Callie's voice made me turn. She ran up the drive, Aunt Olivia right behind her. We saw your message. Are you okay? I'm fine, but... Where's Mauricio? Aunt Olivia demanded. As if summoned by his name, a car screeched into the driveway. Mauricio jumped out, followed by a man I'd never seen before. My brother's face was bloody. Nancy, he shouted, you have to leave, now. The stranger grabbed Mauricio's arm. This your sister? The one with the deed? Detective Torres and the other officers moved quickly, hands on their weapons. Sir, step away from him. This ain't your business, cops, the man sneered. This is family business. It became our business when you vandalized private property, Torres replied. Hands where we can see them. Everything happened fast after that. The man shoved Mauricio aside and ran. Officers tackled him before he reached his car. Mauricio collapsed on the gravel, blood dripping from his nose. They came for me first, he gasped as I knelt beside him. Said if I didn't bring them the deed, they'd burn everything down. Aunt Olivia rushed to get her first aid kit from her car. Callie helped Mauricio to the porch steps, while Connor and I followed Detective Torres inside to assess the damage. The interior was ransacked, furniture overturned, photos smashed. They'd even ripped up floorboards, probably looking for hidden valuables. This is what gambling debts look like, Torres said quietly. These people don't play by legal rules. What do we do? We've got enough to arrest his associates now, but Mauricio needs to cooperate. Tell us everything. Connor squeezed my shoulder. I'll get started boarding up the windows. Outside, I found Mauricio sitting on the steps, while Aunt Olivia cleaned his face. He looked broken, defeated. How many are there? I asked. How many people are you involved with? 3 main guys, he whispered. But their network, it's big. Detective Torres stepped forward. Mr. Whitney, we need your formal statement. The more you tell us, the more we can protect your family. He looked up at me, eyes red. Nancy, I'm so sorry. I never meant... Save it, I cut him off. Just tell them everything. For once in your life, do the right thing. As the police took Mauricio's statement, more family members arrived. Uncle Robert, Cousin Pete, even distant relatives who'd heard about the drama. They formed a work crew without being asked. boarding windows, sweeping glass, righting furniture. Callie found me in Grandma's old room, picking up scattered photos. "Look what I found," she said, holding up an intact picture. It showed Grandma on the porch swing, young Mauricio and me on either side of her. We were all laughing at something long forgotten. "She knew this would happen," I said softly. "Maybe not exactly this, but something like it. That's why she left the cottage to me." "What are you going to do with it now?" Before I could answer, Connor called from downstairs. "Nancy, Zuriel's here." The lawyer stood in the living room, briefcase in hand. "I've filed emergency injunctions," he announced, "and I've contacted a security company. They'll be here within the hour to install a system." "Thank you," I said. "What about Mauricio?" "He's looking at serious charges, but his cooperation might help." Zuriel paused. "The gambling ring he was involved with, the police have been trying to crack it for months. His testimony could be valuable." I watched through the window as Detective Torres led Mauricio to her car. Our eyes met briefly before he ducked inside. "He's going to need a good lawyer," I said. "I know one," Zuriel replied. "But first, let's focus on securing your property. Your grandmother protected this place for a reason. Now it's your turn." I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. But looking around at my family working together to repair the damage, I knew I wasn't carrying it alone. 2 weeks after the break-in, I stood in the cottage's newly repaired living room, surrounded by paint swatches and renovation catalogues. The security system beeped softly as Callie let herself in through the front door. "You won't believe what I just heard," she announced, dropping her bag on the counter. "Mauricio's testimony led to 6 arrests yesterday, major players in the gambling ring." "Good." I tacked another paint sample to the wall. "Maybe some good will come from all this. Have you visited him yet?" "No." I stepped back to examine the colors. "Have you?" "Yesterday." Callie picked up a catalogue. "He's different, clearer. Being in custody probably saved his life." The security system chimed again. This time it was Aunt Olivia, carrying a box of old photographs. "Found these in my attic," she said. "Thought they might help with inspiration for the renovation." She paused, looking around. "What exactly are you planning to do with the place?" I picked up a business plan from the coffee table and handed it to her. "I'm turning it into a women's retreat center, a place for healing, just like it was for us growing up." Olivia's eyes widened as she read. "Professional counseling services, art therapy, meditation spaces." "Nancy, this is incredible." "That's not even the best part," Callie chimed in. "Tell her about the scholarship program. We'll offer free stays for women leaving abusive situations or recovering from addiction," I explained. "Grandma always said this place had healing energy. Time to put it to good use." The doorbell rang, Connor and Uncle Robert, carrying lumber for the new deck. "Security company called," Connor said, setting down the wood. "They're adding cameras to the back property line tomorrow." Uncle Robert cleared his throat awkwardly. "Nancy, about what I said at the dinner, about destroying the family. It's okay." "No, it's not. I was wrong. This," he gestured around the room, "this is bringing us together in ways Mauricio's secrets never could." My phone buzzed, a text from Zuriel. "Plea deal offered. Meeting tomorrow 9 a.m. "Speaking of Mauricio," I said, showing them the message. "Are you going?" Callie asked. "Yes." I set down the paint samples. "He needs to see what his actions set in motion, both the bad and the good." The next morning, I sat across from Mauricio in the jail's visiting room. He looked healthier than I'd seen him in years, clear-eyed, steady. "They're offering 5 years," he said without preamble. "Could be out in 3 with good behavior." "Are you taking it?" "Yes." He folded his hands on the table. "It's fair. More than fair, considering everything." I pulled out my tablet and showed him the renovation plans. "This is what I'm doing with the cottage." He studied the images, tears forming in his eyes. "Grandma would have loved this." "I know." "Nancy, He wiped his eyes. "I keep thinking about what you said, About consequences. You were right. I needed this. Needed to hit bottom. Are you going to meetings? He nodded. Every day in here. Turns out there are a lot of us gambling addicts in prison. He attempted a weak smile. Who knew? Mauricio. I know. Bad joke. He looked down at his hands. The therapist here says I use gambling to feel powerful, to feel in control. Pretty ironic, huh? And now I'm learning what real control feels like, making amends, taking responsibility. He met my eyes. I'm sorry, Nancy, for everything. The guard called time. As I stood to leave, Mauricio spoke again. That program you're starting, the addiction recovery part. When I get out, maybe I could help, share my story. I paused at the door. We'll see. Prove you've changed first. Back at the cottage, I found Callie and Connor painting the living room in the sage green I'd finally chosen. Aunt Olivia sat at the new kitchen island, sorting through applications for the retreat program. You won't believe how many inquiries we've had already, she said, waving a stack of papers. Word's spreading fast. People need this, Callie called from her perch on the ladder. A safe place to heal. I picked up a brush and joined them, working in comfortable silence until Connor spoke up. How is Mauricio? Different, I said, carefully cutting in along the ceiling. Maybe even better. Think he'll stay that way? I don't know. I stepped back to admire our work. But that's not my responsibility anymore. This is. The setting sun streamed through the new windows, casting long shadows across the freshly painted walls. In 2 months, we'd welcome our first guests. Women seeking refuge, healing, hope, just like Grandma had offered to so many others during her lifetime. She'd be proud, Aunt Olivia said softly, reading my thoughts. Of all of this, of you. I smiled, dipping my brush back into the paint. I know. That's why I'm doing it. 6 months later, I stood in front of the cottage, now renamed Grace Haven, watching our first group of residents arrive. The transformation was complete. Fresh paint, new furniture, healing gardens, and most importantly, a sense of purpose. First day jitters? Connor asked, helping a woman with her bags. A little. I checked my clipboard. We're at full capacity. 12 women. The front door opened, and Callie bounded out. She'd quit her job to become our full-time activities coordinator, and her enthusiasm was contagious. Everyone's settling in, she reported, and wait until you see what Aunt Olivia's cooking for dinner. My phone buzzed, a text from Zuriel. Mauricio's parole hearing next month. He's asking if you'll speak. Before I could respond, one of our new residents approached. Sarah, mid-40s, hands shaking slightly as she spoke. I just wanted to say thank you, she said quietly. My counselor said it would take months to get a spot here. When you called about the opening, we prioritize emergency cases, I explained, remembering her intake form. Gambling addiction, like Mauricio. Lost everything, like Mauricio. But unlike my brother, she'd sought help before hitting rock bottom. The security system chimed as more women arrived. Each had their own story. Domestic violence, addiction, trauma. Each looked at the cottage the same way I used to, like it was a lighthouse in a storm. Nancy, Aunt Olivia called from the kitchen window. The reporter's here. I'd agreed to one interview about Grace Haven, hoping to reach more women who needed help. The reporter, Maria, met me on the front porch. This place has quite a story, she said, setting up her recorder. Family drama, betrayal, redemption. But what made you choose this particular mission? I watched a group of women touring the meditation garden with Callie. Sometimes the worst things in our lives lead us to our true purpose. My brother's addiction nearly destroyed this place. Now it helps others overcome their own battles. Speaking of your brother, sources say he's up for early parole. That's not part of this story, I said firmly. Today is about these women and their journeys. After the interview, I found Connor in the workshop we'd built behind the cottage. He was teaching a woodworking class, part of our therapy program. Look what Sarah made, he said, holding up a small jewelry box. First time she's ever used tools. It's beautiful, I told Sarah, who beamed with pride. The day flew by in a blur of activities. Art therapy in the sunroom, group counseling in the living room, cooking classes in the kitchen. By evening, the cottage hummed with a new kind of energy. Hope, possibility, strength. During dinner, my phone buzzed again. This time, a call from the prison. Nancy? Mauricio's voice was clear, steady. I saw the article about Grace Haven online. They published it already. How are you? Good. Really good. 9 months sober, leading GA meetings here twice a week. He paused. The parole hearing. I know. I'm not asking you to support my release. Just tell the truth, whatever you think they should know. After dinner, I found Aunt Olivia in Grandma's old garden, now transformed into a healing labyrinth. Mauricio called, I said, sitting beside her on the stone bench. And? He's different, calmer, more himself, like the brother I used to know. She patted my hand. People can change, dear, if they want to badly enough. But can they be trusted again? That's not for us to decide. We can only create space for possibility. She gestured at the cottage. Like you've done here. Later that night, after everyone had settled in, I sat on the new porch swing. The security lights cast a soft glow over the property, and somewhere in the distance, an owl called. Connor joined me, 2 cups of tea in hand. Penny for your thoughts. I'm going to speak at his hearing, I said, accepting the tea. Not to support or oppose, just to tell the truth. Which is, that addiction nearly destroyed our family, but it also led to this. I looked at the cottage, windows glowing warmly in the darkness. Maybe both things can be true. Maybe that's what healing really looks like. My phone lit up with a message from Sarah. Thank you for today. First time I felt hope in years. I showed Connor the message and he smiled. Grandma would say that's not a coincidence. No, I agreed, sipping my tea. She'd say it's Grace. The owl called again, closer now. Inside, I could hear laughter from the community room, women finding connection, understanding, strength. The cottage had always been a sanctuary, but now it was something more. It was a beginning. The parole hearing room felt smaller than I expected. Mauricio sat at a table facing the board, his hand steady as he spoke about his recovery. I waited my turn, listening as he detailed his progress, his remorse, his plans for the future. Ms. Whitney? The board chairman nodded to me. You may speak now. I stood, smoothing my skirt. My brother betrayed our family's trust. He committed fraud, endangered our legacy, and caused harm that can't be undone. I paused, meeting Mauricio's eyes. But he also sparked a change that's helped dozens of women rebuild their lives. I told them about Grace Haven, about Sarah and the others who'd found healing there, about addiction's ripple effects, both destructive and transformative. I can't tell you if he's ready for release, I concluded, but I can tell you he's not the same person who went in. Outside the hearing room, Mauricio caught up to me. Nancy, wait. They'll notify you of their decision in a few days, I said. I know. That's not... He ran a hand through his hair. Remember when we were kids, and I caught Callie falling from that tree? Of course. You said that day that I was your hero. His voice cracked. I want to be that person again. Not for you, but for myself, for others who are struggling like I was. One day at a time, right? He nodded. One day at a time. Back at Grace Haven, I found Sarah teaching another resident how to use the lathe in the workshop. Her hands were steady now, her eyes clear and focused. Look what we made, she said proudly, holding up a set of wooden candlesticks. For the dining room, Callie burst in, waving her phone. Nancy, the grant came through. We can add the East Wing. The expansion would mean 8 more beds, more lives we could touch. As we celebrated, Connor arrived with lunch for everyone. How'd it go? He asked quietly. I told the truth, all of it. I watched Sarah showing off her woodwork. Whatever happens next is up to him. That evening, we held our weekly community dinner. Residents past and present filled the dining room, sharing stories and strength. Sarah's candlesticks graced the center of the table, flames dancing as Aunt Olivia served her famous lasagna. "I have an announcement," Sarah stood, her voice strong. "Today marks 6 months clean, and I got a job, a real one, at a furniture maker's shop." Applause erupted. She'd started in our workshop barely able to hold a hammer. Now she was building a future, piece by piece. My phone buzzed. The parole board's decision. I stepped onto the porch to read it. Parole granted with conditions: mandatory counseling, regular check-ins, supervised work program. Below that, a note: candidate shows exceptional progress and genuine remorse. Family support system in place. Connor found me still staring at the message. "You okay?" "I think so." I showed him the phone. "They're releasing him next month." "What are you thinking?" Inside, laughter rang out as someone told a joke. Through the window, I could see Sarah showing Aunt Olivia her portfolio of woodwork designs. New residents sat with program graduates, soaking in proof that change was possible. "I'm thinking about something Grandma used to say," I replied. "Grace isn't about getting what you deserve. It's about growing into what you could be." Wise woman. She knew the cottage would become this. Maybe not exactly this, but something that mattered. I turned to face him. Mauricio asked if he could volunteer here once he's settled, leading GA meetings, sharing his story. "What did you say?" "I said we'd start with him attending meetings first, as a participant, not a leader. Show up, do the work, prove he means it." "And if he does?" Sarah's voice carried through the open window as she described her new job. Another resident cheered as she shared news about finding an apartment. Inside that cottage, lives were being rebuilt, hope restored, grace given and received. "Then he'll be welcome here," I said, "just like everyone else who's ready to change." Connor squeezed my hand as we headed back inside. The dining room glowed with warmth and conversation, Sarah's candlesticks burning bright at the center of it all. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new residents, new stories of struggle and strength. But tonight, watching this unlikely family share a meal and their victories, I finally understood what Grandma meant about grace. It wasn't just about second chances or forgiveness. It was about creating space for possibility, for transformation, for becoming. The cottage had always been meant for this, not just surviving betrayal, but transforming it into something beautiful, something that mattered, something that healed.
Grandma, please give me $10 for my pocket money today. My 6-year-old granddaughter walks in with a big smile on her face. "Oh, Ava, you're here again." My voice was decidedly darker than one would expect for addressing a grandchild, but it's no wonder. After all, it was the 5th day in a row that Ava came to our house for money. When I returned from living abroad for 10 years, my granddaughter came to visit me, who had only seen photos of me when she was a baby. At first, I was so happy to see her for the first time, but as expected, I was caught by the fact that she visited me every day and begged for pocket money every time, so I called my son's home many times. I involuntarily raised my voice to my daughter-in-law who has finally connected. "What kind of education are you giving your children, and how can you make them come to our house every day to collect money?" "What? What are you talking about?" I was rather confused by my daughter-in-law's bewildered voice. And after that, I will be astonished by the truth that came out of her mouth. I moved abroad at the age of 50 due to my husband's work. At that time, I left my son, who was a university student, in America and left America with my wife. My son eventually became a member of society, got married, and had a child 6 years ago. When I saw the pictures of the babies that were sent to me, my husband and I were overjoyed and sent a lot of diapers to annoy our daughter. After 10 years of living abroad, I decided to return to America when my husband retired. I contacted my son to let him know that I would be returning home a bit earlier than planned. I'm going home on a flight the day after tomorrow. Can you pick me up? Sorry. I'm actually leaving on a business trip overseas starting tomorrow. Oh, what a timing mismatch. That's unfortunate. It was a pity that I couldn't see my son right away, but I was so excited to live in America for the first time in a long time. My son and his wife didn't live in our house in a prime location because it was too big and difficult to maintain, so we asked a contractor to take care of it regularly. 2 days after returning to America, when I finally finished cleaning the house, a girl suddenly came to visit my house. Hello, Grandma. What? Nice to meet you, I'm Ava. Could it be? Are you my grandson Ava? The girl, who bore a resemblance to my son, answered my question with a yes, and then took out a small purse she had and handed me a photo. In the photo, my son was smiling while leaning his shoulder against Ava, who was right in front of him. Well, Liam already looks old. When I look at my son, who has become a little overweight, I involuntarily squint my eyes. Do you always have this picture? Well, my mom told me to show it to my grandma when I see her today. I realized that I had been told that, but it seemed that Ava was alone. How did you get here? Liam is. Daddy went abroad for work, didn't he? Yes, but my mom sent me close. She's going shopping, so I should stay at Grandma's house. I'm sure Ava is 6 years old. I would never think of letting a child of this age walk alone overseas, but is this what America is like? However, as my grandson looked at me with an innocent expression, I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up with emotion. Ava, do you want a snack? Yay! When I gave the snacks and juice that I had at home, she happily savored them, looking deliciously satisfied. Afterwards, we engaged in crafting and other activities, and before we knew it, evening had arrived in the blink of an eye. When I was preparing in the kitchen to bring sweets as a souvenir, I heard a voice from the front door, "Grandma, see you later," and left in a blink of an eye. I hurriedly chased after her, but she was already gone, and I didn't know my daughter-in-law's mobile number, so I couldn't contact her. At night, when I called the house, no one answered, and the next day, Ava came again. Come on. I was worried, you know. You were suddenly leaving. My mom picked me up nearby, so it's okay. When I see my granddaughter smiling at me, I wonder if I'm just being overprotective. She stayed at home until the evening that day, and then went home by herself, saying, "My mom is waiting nearby." Even if I call home, my daughter-in-law doesn't answer, but my granddaughter comes every day. This went on for 2 days, and just as I was starting to get suspicious about the situation, Ava said something unexpected. "Grandma, I want pocket money." Pocket money? Yes. Give me $50. I was surprised to be told such a thing suddenly, but I wonder if it is the privilege of a small child to be able to beg for pocket money without being intimidated. I smiled and gave her $5. However, from that day on, Ava opened her mouth and said, "Money, money." Moreover, the amount demanded increased day by day, from $10 to $20. Do you want something in particular? If you do, I can buy it for you. No, I want money. I have a feeling that I want to give it to her, but I can't give it away easily. Why do you want money? Well, I just want it. But you shouldn't take too much money from people, right? Why, Grandma, you're rich, aren't you? Mom told me you have a lot of money, right? That's why I can get as much pocket money as I want. What? Did your mom say that? Ava repeats, give me, with sparkling eyes. There was a time when a few bills disappeared from my wallet on the day I said no. I wanted to call my son because I thought I couldn't go on like this, but unfortunately, he's still on a business trip overseas. I couldn't help it, so I called my son's house several times and finally got a daughter-in-law. Oh, mother-in-law. It's been a long time. I'm sorry, I heard you were returning home, but things were so hectic that I couldn't. I don't care about that, but what kind of education are you giving your child? What? Ava, she comes to my house every day to ask for money. What do you mean, my Ava? My daughter-in-law asks me in confusion, what are you talking about? When I hit it hard, what came back from her were unexpected words. Well, Ava can't go to your house. What are you talking about? I'm still at home. Ava is. My daughter is in the hospital right now. What? According to her daughter-in-law, Ava was born weak and had been in and out of the hospital for a long time. I heard that the reason why only baby photos were sent while I was overseas was because they didn't want to worry me by showing a frail appearance. The reason why I couldn't connect to my daughter-in-law when I called home was because she was going to the hospital where Ava was hospitalized. Even after my wife hung up the phone, saying, "It's time to go to the hospital," I was stunned for a while. Ava came to my house that day as well. The child who called me Grandma as usual and had a picture of me with my son is not my grandson. Who is it? Ava, can you answer Grandma's questions? Yes, okay, what? What's Ava's father's name? Liam. So, what's your mother's name? Sharon. At this point, I furrowed my brows. The father's name was correct, but the name of the daughter-in-law I called earlier was Nadia. When I asked a few questions from there, each one seemed to have slight discrepancies. Ava, is your mom coming to pick you up today? Yes. Okay. At that time, I had already made up my mind. And in the evening, I gently followed Ava, who left our house alone as usual. After walking for a while, Ava enters a nearby park and runs up to a young woman who is there. She is a completely different person from my daughter-in-law, and I don't recognize her face. I hurriedly approached the two of them as they were about to leave the park. Excuse me. Are you her mother? That's right. Who are you exactly? I'm being asked for money by this child. Even though I deliberately speak in her ear so that the child cannot hear us, the other person answers loudly without thinking. So what? Aren't you Ava's grandmother? He told me that it's natural for a grandmother to give money to her grandchildren. Is that person Liam? Huh? Who else would it be? When I questioned the woman, who was smirking as if mocking me, it turned out she was my son's mistress, and Ava was my son's illegitimate child. Did you give your daughter the same name as your hidden child? What the hell is he thinking? My real daughter is in the hospital, and my daughter-in-law is also with her. I can't believe that he's having an affair and making a child. I was so dizzy from the shock. I think I should talk to you properly. What? Are you planning to lecture me? It's not all his fault. He won't hurry up and divorce his wife. Maybe you were begging me for money. That's right, it's not worth it if I don't get the money. Well, if he says he's going to get a divorce, I can stop, right? I felt my blood boil with indignation towards the woman who was so condescending, but I proposed that we should have a proper discussion when Liam returned from his overseas business trip. Eventually, the woman reluctantly agreed to this proposal. 3 days later, when I saw that Liam had returned home, I called him to my house because I wanted to eat with him after a long time. Unaware of anything, my son entered the living room, loosening his tie. Waiting for him were me, his wife Nadia, and his mistress. What the heck? What's going on? That idiot son of yours. That's what I want to say, along with Nadia. Theodor, with his eyes darting back and forth, shows no intention of stopping the attack. Liam, you should divorce Nadia right now. Why? Of course. Who do you think's been cheating for years and even had a secret child? No. There's a reason for this. Oh, and there's no way Nadia is going to get a divorce, is she? How am I going to live if my earnings are gone? Liam almost talked back, but it was Nadia who smashed it. No, I'm getting a divorce, and I don't want you to worry about my future life. I'll do anything for my daughter, much better than being married to you. Hey! Are you kidding me? It's bad for my reputation to be divorced. I don't know that. Please, go ahead and build a wonderful family with the woman over there. Prompted by Nadia, the mistress seems to be positively ecstatic, practically dancing with joy. Yes. He's going to divorce you, isn't he? Hey, mother-in-law, how long will Liam and I be able to live in this big house? Unfortunately, you won't call me mother-in-law, and it's impossible for you to live in this house. Why, are you going to say that you won't allow marriage? You can't decide that. Please, do as you like with marriage. It has nothing to do with me anymore. What? Mom, what do you mean? Liam, I will cut ties with you from your parents and children, and from now on, you can live as you like. At my words, the place suddenly fell silent. Everyone there has a blank face. A few seconds later, the silence was cut by the screams of his cheating partner. What? This isn't a joke. What appeal does Liam have if he's not part of this rich woman's family anymore? What's that? I was dating because your parents were rich. Otherwise, I wouldn't be involved with a married man in the first place. I gave birth to a child because I thought I would get paid better if I had grandchildren. Apparently, my son has chosen a ridiculous woman as an affair partner. When Liam learned his true intentions, Liam's face was completely white, past the pale. What the hell is this punishment when you think that old hag has come back from abroad? I'm not kidding. I'll sue you for damages. You're a very dashing young lady, but unfortunately you're the one who will be charged alimony, right? You messed with a man with a family, so you have to make amends. No, That's right. I didn't know you were married. I was deceived by Liam. Oh, you just said, your parents were rich, so I was involved with a married man in the first place, right? I didn't say that, and you don't have any proof. Oh my gosh, I never thought that living abroad for a long time would be useful in a place like this. I said that and took out my cell phone that was being recorded. In fact, I had secretly started recording when my son came to this house. Don't underestimate me just because I'm an old lady. I've been living abroad for years in a country where everything is settled with lawsuits. It was a daily occurrence to record conversations and gather evidence. Now it was the turn of the cheating partner's face to turn pale. And just when I thought she was weakly bowing her head, the next moment, she clung to my legs with incredible force. Please, I didn't ask you what I told you earlier. Delete that recording. You're not giving up easily, are you? Pay what you owe quietly. How much is alimony? I don't have that kind of money. The woman turned to Nadia and begged for forgiveness, but she shook her head silently and shrugged her shoulders. After that, Nadia divorced and demanded $3 million in alimony each from Liam and the woman who was having an affair. Liam ended up paying a total of $1,000 per month for child support for his two Ava. He also lost his energy because he was insulated, and he made a series of mistakes at work. I heard he was fired for causing major damage to the company, and now he's working like a workhorse in day labor jobs. I heard rumors that the woman who was cheating on her managed to make a living in the city at night. On the other hand, I decided to live abroad again. After discussing with my husband, we decided to cross the sea together with my ex-daughter-in-law Nadia and Ava. After receiving state-of-the-art treatment, Ava's condition gradually improved, and now she is energetic enough to run around the park. I am happy to be able to watch my beloved granddaughter grow up by my side. The streets of Austin were bathed in orange as the sun began to set. I, Lauren Cooper, gripped the steering wheel while checking on Ethan's sleeping face in the passenger seat. He must be tired from swimming practice today. As I listened to my 9-year-old son's steady breathing, I savored this peaceful moment of happiness. It had been a busy day from morning. After sending Ethan off to school, I completed 3 property assessments and had a meeting with a new client in the afternoon. As a real estate appraiser in my 2nd year of independence, I was finally starting to build a solid track record. Mom, I got a perfect score on yesterday's math test. That morning, Ethan had shown me his test with a beaming smile. For the past 2 years since the divorce, his smile had been my driving force. After graduating from the University of Texas at Austin, I worked for a major real estate company for 10 years before taking the leap to independence. With over 120 clients now, things were finally starting to fall into place. Still, an annual income of $80,000 didn't leave much room for extras. There was still $150,000 left on the house mortgage. Even so, I had no intention of giving up our home in the quiet residential area of Travis Heights. It was close to St. Edward's University and blessed with the excellent Eanes School District. More importantly, this house, filled with Ethan's memories, was our sanctuary. Should we have a barbecue this weekend? The church community had warmly embraced me as a single mother. I actively participated in PTA activities and valued our neighborhood relationships. This environment was perfect for raising a child. Mom, I improved my time again today. After practice, Ethan proudly reported his achievement. Swimming 3 times a week. This was one thing I wanted to continue after the divorce. It was one of our connections to Michael. I believe the twice-monthly visits with his father are essential for Ethan's emotional stability. Hey, Ethan. What would you like for breakfast tomorrow? Should we get something special from Whole Foods? I spoke to my sleeping son as we waited at a red light. No response. Instead, my smartphone started vibrating. A message from Steve. I have something important to discuss tonight. Or tomorrow evening if that works better. I had met Steve Parker 3 months ago at an industry party celebrating my independence as a successful real estate investor. 40 years old. I was honestly attracted to his gentlemanly demeanor and intellectual charm. It was the first special feeling I'd experienced since parting ways with Michael. Above all, his way with Ethan was wonderful. Last weekend, when we had dinner together at Magnolia Cafe, he listened attentively to my son's stories. Perhaps this could become our new family form. Such expectations had begun to slowly take root. I'm sorry. I'm spending tonight with my son. After sending that reply, I focused on driving. We should stop for groceries on the way home. We were running low on Ethan's favorite organic apple juice. I'll make his favorite grilled chicken for dinner. While thinking about the weekend shopping list, I hurried home with a peaceful feeling. When we arrived home, something felt off. Several police cars were parked on the street. 2 uniformed officers stood in front of our doorway. The time was 7:15 p.m. Ethan, wake up, I gently roused my son. He rubbed his eyes and slowly looked around. At that moment, the color drained from Ethan's face. Noticing my son's change, I instinctively gripped his hand. Please don't enter the house right now. One of the officers called out loudly. Another officer approached us. The night wind felt cold against my cheeks. Mrs. Cooper. We received a report from neighbors about sounds and screams coming from inside the house. That's when it happened. Ethan suddenly began trembling all over. Dad. My heart froze at my son's trembling words. Dad is trying to kill someone. That confession shattered our peaceful daily life in an instant. Sounds could be heard from inside the house, and another officer was requesting backup on his radio. The stares of gathering onlookers pierced through us. 2 weeks ago, when I stayed at Dad's house. Ethan continued, still trembling. He told us about waking up thirsty in the middle of the night. About the disturbing images he saw on his father Michael's computer. About seeing his father arguing with someone and being too scared to make a sound. Mom, is it my fault? That Dad is doing bad things. While holding my trembling son's shoulders, I was thinking desperately. True, Michael had been an alcoholic, and that's why we divorced, but he had never been violent. Rather, I'd heard he had been diligently attending rehabilitation programs after the divorce and had even received a promotion at his construction company. Child support was deposited punctually every month. $500. Not a sufficient amount, but I thought it showed he was trying his best. The officer approached again. His expression, illuminated by moonlight, carried an unmistakable tension. We're waiting for the SWAT team to arrive. Just then, a loud crash echoed from inside the house. Ethan clung to me, trembling even more violently. Sirens wailed through the quiet night in Travis Heights. Usually at this time, Ethan would be doing homework in the living room while I prepared dinner. The local news would be playing on TV, and children's playful voices would drift in from outside. Such peaceful daily scenes now felt like distant memories. I stood frozen, holding my son. The porch light flickered ominously as the moon hanging in Austin's night sky looked down impassively on this abnormal situation. "Please wait in this car until the SWAT team arrives." Following the officer's instruction, we sat in the back of the patrol car. Ethan clung to my arm, still trembling slightly. Fragmentary conversations could be heard from the car's radio. Suspect still not secured. Possible hostage situation, proceed with caution. Requesting backup. The clock showed 7:30 p.m. Another patrol car arrived, and officers quickly took their positions. I held my son's hand, desperately trying to maintain my composure. "Ethan, can you tell Mommy about what you saw at Dad's house?" While rubbing my trembling son's back, I spoke gently. Ethan took a deep breath and began speaking in a shaky voice. "At Dad's house, when I woke up at night. 2 weeks ago, Saturday. It was one of the twice-monthly visits with his father. A normal weekend like any other. They had dinner, watched TV, and went to bed as usual. But everything changed in the middle of the night. I was thirsty. I went to get water. As he descended the stairs, he noticed a bluish light leaking from the study. The door was slightly ajar, and he could hear his father's voice. It seemed he was on the phone with someone. He said, "There's no time left. We have to stop him." Curiosity got the better of him, and Ethan peeked through the door. Unfamiliar photos were arranged on the computer screen. Pictures of our house exterior. Photos of me returning from work. Images of me meeting with Steve. And Dad was putting red X marks on someone's photos. As I listened to his confession, chills ran down my spine. "I see, that must have been scary." I pulled Ethan closer. My son continued. "Dad said he was going to visit tomorrow, but that person said, 'Let's wait and see a little longer.'" Just then, a loud noise echoed from inside the house. The sound of breaking glass. Followed by a man's angry shout. Ethan's grip on me tightened. "Ma'am." An officer approached the car. Despite his stern expression, there was a hint of compassion in his face. "Has your ex-husband been in contact with you recently?" I shook my head. Besides Ethan's drop-offs and pickups, I had avoided direct contact with Michael. I thought that was appropriate distance as a mother with custody. That's when it happened. A familiar voice rang out from inside the house. "Stop. Don't come any closer." Michael's voice. But different from his usual calm tone. A desperate cry mixed with fear. "Mom! Dad!" Ethan cried out. Simultaneously, a dull thud echoed from the house. The sound of something falling. Then, silence. The officers moved quickly. The silhouette of our house loomed ominously in the streetlight. The gathered neighbors' eyes were fixed on us. Among them, I spotted Mrs. Jones, whom we see every Sunday at church. She waved with a worried expression. "It's okay, Lauren. God is watching over us." Those words brought some comfort. Yes, stay calm. I need to be strong for Ethan's sake. I should contact Steve. My hand stopped as I reached for my smartphone. If Michael really was trying to kill someone, who was the target? Michael must have known about my relationship with Steve. No, not yet. I held my son close while staring at the house before us. The house where I had once built a happy home with Michael. The house that had watched over Ethan's growth. What was happening inside now? Again, sounds came from inside. This time, footsteps running up the stairs. Then, the sound of a second-floor window opening. The officer's tension increased. Ethan's body trembled. I held my son tightly, watching the house with something like a prayer in my heart. The cold night wind brushed our cheeks. An unusual tension hung over the quiet residential area of Travis Heights. Even after 8 p.m., the tense situation continued. A black SWAT van arrived, and team members in full black gear quickly deployed. Under the streetlights, their figures wavered like eerie shadows. Lauren. I turned to see Sarah Johnson, our next-door neighbor, running toward us. The PTA vice president and a dear friend who often helps with Ethan's swimming practice carpools. "Won't you rest at my house? Ethan must be tired." At those words, I came back to my senses. In the back of the patrol car, Ethan had fallen asleep. Tear tracks still marked the cheeks of my son, exhausted from fatigue and fear. "Thank you, but..." As I was about to decline, another sound came from inside the house. Something falling. Then, a man's groan. At that moment, Ethan woke up. "Mom. Dad. Dad isn't a bad person." As my son spoke in a trembling voice, something I hadn't noticed before began connecting in my mind. "Officer, I need to tell you something." I left Ethan with Sarah and approached a nearby officer. "Actually, I've recently started seeing someone." I began talking about Steve. Our 3-month relationship. His glamorous career as a real estate investor. His kindness toward Ethan. And recently, there were some concerning things. I recalled Steve's strange behavior last week. How he tried to casually probe into my financial situation. How he brought up the topic of insurance. And how oddly interested he was in Ethan's visitation days. The officer listened to my story with a serious expression. He reported something on his radio. Meanwhile, sounds continued from inside the house. Furniture falling. Footsteps. And Michael's voice. Desperate shouts mixed with anger. Then, the sound of something breaking. Glass, perhaps. SWAT team members moved swiftly. Some went around to the backyard, others took positions at the front entrance. Every movement seemed precisely calculated. "Ma'am, your ex-husband has been providing us with information recently." The officer spoke in a quiet voice. "About a person named Steve Parker. Actually, he has a record of domestic violence in multiple states." At those words, the blood drained from my face. "Steve, Who was so gentle and gentlemanly? Who had been so good to Ethan? He has a history of violence against his ex-wife. And his career as an investor was completely fabricated. My knees nearly gave out. Sarah supported me from beside. It seems your assets were his target. Especially. The officer's explanation was cut off by a loud noise from inside the house. Simultaneously, the SWAT team members began moving. Then, Dad. Ethan's voice made me turn around. Two figures burst out from the gate leading to the backyard. One was Michael, stumbling and bleeding. The other was Steve. Something gleamed in his hand. A knife? Let go! Michael shouted. A struggle broke out between them. The SWAT team quickly approached. Seeing this scene, Ethan broke free from my arms. Dad! Ethan, no! I desperately chased after my son. A moment that felt like time had stopped. In the backyard lit by streetlights, everything happened in an instant. Michael turning at Ethan's cry. Steve seizing that moment to raise his arm. But the SWAT team quickly subdued Steve. I was holding Ethan close. He kept calling Michael's name while trembling. An ambulance arrived, and Michael was carried away on a stretcher. He seemed conscious. He was able to hold Ethan's hand and manage a faint smile. Ma'am, we need to talk. An officer approached. But before that, I squeezed my son's hand tightly. Ethan, Dad wasn't a bad person after all, was he? Tears welled up in my son's face. Dad. Dad was trying to protect us. The ambulance siren wailed through the quiet residential area of Travis Heights. Under the moonlight, Steve was handcuffed and pushed into a patrol car. Family shapes can sometimes be complex and hard to understand. But true love never changes. That night, we learned this lesson painfully. A week had passed since the incident. While the streets of Travis Heights remained as quiet and peaceful as ever, our lives had changed dramatically. Michael was discharged after 3 days in the hospital. Though he had deep cuts, his life wasn't in danger. Meanwhile, Steve Parker, or rather, Stephen Riley, was charged with multiple felonies. Here's his arrest record. The documents the detective showed me revealed a face of his I never knew. Domestic violence records in 3 states. A prison sentence for fraud. And severe violence against 2 ex-wives. All crimes committed under fabricated identities. His method was always the same. The detective continued explaining. Target wealthy single women, especially single mothers. Approach them posing as an investor, build a relationship. Then, after marriage, steal their assets and become violent. In the worst cases. Insurance money. I shuddered at those words. Thinking about how Michael had saved both Ethan's and my life sent chills down my spine. Mr. Cooper began investigating after becoming suspicious of Stephen Riley's background. The testimony of John Taylor, Michael's colleague and former police officer, was included. They had secretly conducted investigations and uncovered Steve's true identity. And then tried to prevent him from approaching us. Mom. I turned to see Ethan standing there. Today was finally time to visit Michael again. Dad's waiting. Taking my son's hand, we headed to Magnolia Cafe. The same place we had visited with Steve before. But today, it held a completely different meaning. Lauren, Ethan. Michael was waiting for us at a window seat. The scars on his face were still fresh, but his expression was peaceful. Dad. Ethan rushed to him. His father gently embraced him. Seeing this scene brought tears to my eyes. I'm sorry. As I struggled with words, Michael slowly shook his head. I'm the one who should apologize. I should have told you everything. A waitress brought menus. A family having lunch together like any other Sunday. But today was special. Can you tell us about that night? At my question, Michael set down his coffee cup. John told me that Steve was planning to break into the house that night. His colleague John had been investigating using his old police connections. From Steve's phone records, they had detected his plan. He was targeting the time you'd return from swimming practice. I held my coffee cup with trembling hands. Ethan silently picked at his French fries while listening to his father's words. I just wanted to protect you both. That's all. Simple words. But the depth of feeling they contained made my chest tighten. The photos Ethan saw. Evidence of Steve's criminal record. Photos showing his true nature. That's why they had red X marks. To identify the suspect. Dad's a hero. At Ethan's words, Michael gave a slightly embarrassed smile. He gently patted his son's head as the boy worriedly examined his father's scars. I'm no hero. Just a father. At those words, I burst into tears. Other customers turned to look, but I didn't care. Will you continue to be Ethan's dad? Michael quietly nodded at my question. That's my only pride. Ethan smiled happily. His smile was as bright and warm as the sun. On our way home, the three of us walked together. A father and child who usually take separate paths were now walking in the same direction. Hey, how about having a barbecue next weekend? Ethan suddenly suggested. Dad should come too. Everyone at church would be happy. Michael and I looked at each other and smiled. The former married couple would never return to what they were. But a new form of family was being born here. Lauren, if you can forgive me. I gently interrupted Michael's words. No more apologies. Let's look forward from now on. The streets of Travis Heights were bathing in the sunset. The sound of bells rang out from St. Edward's University campus. Dad, come watch my next swimming meet, okay? Of course, I will. Listening to the conversation between father and son, I looked up at the sky. Bonds that were wounded and almost lost. But because of this crisis, we were able to find the true shape of our family. Love sometimes appears in unexpected forms. What's important is distinguishing whether that love is real. And never letting go of those who possess true love. With this lesson in our hearts, our new story was about to begin. The porch light warmly welcomed us home. There was nothing to fear anymore. Because here was a genuine family, protected by real love. Seattle, Washington. Nina, 28, works in marketing at a major tech company while living with her husband Luke, their 3-month-old daughter Tara, and her mother-in-law Megan. Nina and Luke met 5 years ago in college. Both business school students, they grew closer while working on group projects together and married after graduation. Although Nina initially felt uncomfortable living with Luke's mother Megan, she gradually opened her heart to her kind and helpful mother-in-law. However, Megan wasn't pleased about Nina continuing to work after marriage. A mother should focus on raising her children. Work should come second, she would often scold Nina. Still, Nina was determined to balance her career and family life. 3 years into their marriage, she was blessed with their long-awaited daughter, Tara. After returning from maternity leave, Nina struggled to balance childcare and work. While grateful for Megan's support during difficult times like night feedings and sudden fevers, she felt hurt when Megan would blame her. This is what happens when you're too focused on work. One evening, as Nina was preparing dinner, Tara began crying. Luke, exhausted from work, snapped irritably, "She's crying again. Can't you calm her down properly?" Though Nina tried desperately to soothe Tara, the crying wouldn't stop. Megan, who had been watching TV in the living room, stormed in angrily. "Good heavens, I can't even watch TV with all this crying," Megan shouted. Approaching the crib, she declared, "Look here, Nina. You're completely useless. I'll quiet her down myself," and picked up the wailing Tara. Before Nina could stop her, Megan disappeared into her room with the baby. Left behind, Nina felt deeply wounded by her mother-in-law's words and worried sick about her child. Looking at Luke, she saw him watching her with a cold, contemptuous expression, making no move to challenge his mother's behavior. His eyes seemed to say, "You're a failure as a mother." Nina felt her heart constrict with pain. Though Nina longed for a happy family, she felt an indescribable loneliness from the lack of understanding from her mother-in-law and husband. A deep sadness washed over her at not being acknowledged as a mother. Meanwhile, she couldn't stop worrying about Tara, who had been taken away by Megan. Not being able to hold her own daughter, the situation filled Nina with despair. Could Nina improve her relationship with her mother-in-law and husband while protecting her bond with her daughter? How would she face these trials before her? Her maternal love and strength were being put to the test. A few minutes after Megan took Tara into her room, Nina, consumed by anxiety, gently knocked on her mother-in-law's door. "Mother, may I see Tara?" she asked, her voice trembling. Megan peered through a crack in the door, frowning. "How annoying. Just leave it to me," she snapped, glaring at Nina accusingly. Though hurt by Megan's cold attitude, Nina tried desperately to explain, "But it's time for her feeding." However, Megan cut her off, saying, "I can take care of that without you," and slammed the door shut again. Nina stood there, lost. Being separated from her own daughter like this filled her with deep sorrow. Seeing Nina's distress, Luke approached. "You really are incompetent. Why don't you focus on your work and let Mom handle the childcare?" he said coldly. Fighting back tears at her husband's harsh words, Nina managed to say, "But I'm worried about Tara crying so much." Luke responded with even more cruel words. "You're only worried about your own convenience. Just let Mom handle it." His words left Nina speechless. Feeling distrusted by her husband, she fought back tears while staring at her mother-in-law's door. Inside the room, Tara's crying gradually subsided. Nina felt momentary relief that her daughter had stopped crying. Yet at the same time, she worried whether it was right to leave her daughter entirely in her mother-in-law's care. Was Megan really treating Tara well? Nina recalled Megan's cold expressions from the past. The terrifying thought crossed her mind that she might be treating her granddaughter the same way. Anxiety and doubt swirled in her chest. But if she voiced these concerns, she'd only face more criticism from her husband and mother-in-law. Nina felt trapped in her loneliness, unable to confide in anyone. Enduring the pain of bearing this burden alone, Nina could only pray for her daughter's safety. As she continued to watch her mother-in-law's door, she silently wished that Tara was sleeping peacefully on the other side. Some time passed after Tara's crying stopped. Megan's room had grown quiet, as if time itself had stopped. Nina stood frozen in front of the door, wrestling with her muddled feelings as she waited for her mother-in-law to emerge. Eventually, the door opened and Megan appeared. "See? She's quiet now. You could never manage this," she said, looking down at Nina with contempt. Though Nina felt anger at her mother-in-law's attitude, she couldn't say anything back with Luke present. She could only watch silently as Megan held her child. Seeing Nina's reaction, Luke sided with his mother, saying, "See? It's better this way. Mom's an expert at childcare." Luke's words left deep wounds in Nina's heart. She felt an unspeakable sadness at not being recognized as a mother. Even in this situation, Nina couldn't help worrying about Tara. "Mother, please let me see Tara. It's time for her feeding," she pleaded, but Megan coldly replied. "She's sleeping now. She'll cry if you wake her. I'll take care of everything, so you should focus on your own time." Nina was deeply hurt by Megan's words. She wanted to prioritize time with her daughter over her own time. The reality that neither her mother-in-law nor husband understood this filled her with despair. Back in her room, Nina sat on the bed and cried. The loneliness of missing moments in her daughter's growth, the pain of not having confidence as a mother, the sadness of being isolated from her family, various emotions mingled together, eating away at her heart. "How long can I keep living like this?" Nina desperately tried to think of a way out of this situation. But the fear that opposing her husband and mother-in-law might mean losing access to Tara held her back from taking that first step. The next morning, Nina visited her mother-in-law's room with hope in her heart of seeing Tara. However, Megan wouldn't let her in, saying, "She's still sleeping." Nina was left speechless, once again overwhelmed by deep despair. She wondered if she could truly call herself Tara's real mother. As Nina stood frozen in front of her mother-in-law's room, Luke approached. "You really are unreliable. Why don't you focus on your work and leave the childcare to Mom?" he said coldly. Though hurt by her husband's words, Nina desperately appealed, "But I'm Tara's mother. I want to raise her myself." However, Luke responded with merciless words. "With your parenting skills, Tara would be pitiful. It's better for her if Mom takes care of her." Those words completely shattered Nina's confidence as a mother. Unable to even enter her mother-in-law's room or know how her child was doing, she felt deep sadness and helplessness. Then one day, she heard a noise from her mother-in-law's room. "Mother, please open the door." Nina banged on the door, but Megan yelled back, "Be quiet. I just got Tara to sleep." When Nina persisted desperately, Megan reluctantly opened the door. There, Nina saw Tara convulsing on the bed, foam coming from her mouth. "Tara! What's wrong?" As Nina panicked, Megan showed no sign of concern as she said, "It's just a convulsion. This happens often with babies." But Nina sensed something was seriously wrong with her daughter. This isn't normal. She needs to go to the hospital right away, her maternal instinct told her. Nina picked up Tara and tried to seek help from Luke. However, he dismissed her concerns. "If Mom says it's fine, there's no need to go to the hospital." In this desperate situation, Nina made a decision alone. To protect Tara, she had to take action herself. She steeled her resolve. Nina ran out of the house clutching the convulsing Tara. She frantically hailed a taxi and headed to the nearest hospital. In the car, Nina held Tara's tiny body tightly. "Please, Tara, hang on. Mama will protect you," she whispered desperately as she prayed. Arriving at the hospital, Nina rushed to the reception. "My daughter is convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Please, help," she pleaded frantically. The doctors and nurses moved quickly, taking Tara to the intensive care unit. All Nina could do was wait in the waiting room, praying for her child's safety. Eventually, the attending physician appeared and revealed shocking news to Nina. "Ma'am, I need to tell you something. We found large amounts of sleeping medication in your daughter's stomach. The dosage is several times what an adult would take." Nina was stunned by these words. Her mother-in-law had been giving Tara sleeping pills. The unbelievable truth filled her with anger and sorrow. The doctor continued, "Additionally, we found numerous old wounds and bruises on your child's body. This strongly suggests long-term abuse." Nina felt intense guilt for not being able to protect her daughter. She blamed herself harshly for trusting her mother-in-law and leaving Tara in her care. While she resolved to report these facts to the police and press charges against her mother-in-law, Nina agonized over how Luke would react. Would he believe his mother's abuse? Or would he blame her instead? Such anxieties gnawed at Nina's heart. But to protect her daughter, even if it meant confronting her husband, she had to fight. She had to stand up as a mother for Tara's sake. Nina wiped away her tears and steeled her resolve. She quietly harbored in her heart the determination to face the difficult battle ahead. On her way back from the hospital, Nina called her husband Luke. She explained what had happened and declared her intention to press charges against his mother Megan. However, Luke's reaction was exactly as Nina had expected. He refused to believe her, saying, "Mom would never do such a thing." Nina pressed on desperately. "Are you going to take your mother's side over your wife and daughter?" A sigh could be heard through the phone. "You're trying to frame my mother. She loves our daughter and would never abuse her." Nina felt despair at Luke's words. Her husband would only believe his mother's side of the story. "I'm going to fight to protect our daughter, even if you won't support me," she said before hanging up. When Nina returned home alone, she began packing her and Tara's belongings. She couldn't risk her daughter's life by returning her to her mother-in-law's care. Then she heard the sound of a key in the front door. Luke and his mother Megan had returned. "What are you doing? Why are you packing?" Luke asked suspiciously, and Nina responded directly. "I'm taking Tara and going back to my parents' house. I can't leave our daughter with you and your mother anymore." At those words, Megan lunged forward. "What are you saying? I love Tara." Nina fixed Megan with a sharp gaze and said, "Love? Is giving her sleeping pills and covering her in bruises what you call love?" Megan was speechless for a moment but quickly argued back. That was for Tara's own good." Luke sided with his mother again. "Mom would never hurt Tara. Aren't you the one using our daughter to frame Mom?" Though Nina felt despair at their words, her resolve to protect her daughter remained unshaken. "I will never let you take care of Tara again. I'm taking my daughter and leaving here." With those words, Nina picked up Tara and her belongings and left the house. Back at her parents' home, Nina revealed everything that had happened to them. Nina's father Ed trembled with anger as he said, "That man can't even protect his wife and daughter. Always taking his mother's side." Nina's mother Lily embraced her daughter through tears. "You did the right thing. We will absolutely protect you and Tara." Supported by her family, Nina resolved to fight to protect her daughter. She contacted Child Protective Services and submitted evidence of Megan's abuse. She also hired a lawyer and filed for divorce from Luke. Nina's goal was to win full custody and completely separate her daughter from her mother-in-law. On the day of the trial, Nina faced Luke in court. Luke continued to take his mother's side and denounce Nina. "She's using our daughter to frame my mother. Nina shouldn't be given custody." However, Nina countered firmly, "I only want to protect my daughter from abuse. I believe my duty as a mother is to provide the best environment for Tara." The evidence and testimony gradually revealed the truth of Megan's abuse. Furthermore, it became clear that Luke had silently condoned this abuse. The court awarded Nina full custody and granted the divorce. Additionally, her mother-in-law Megan received a prison sentence for child abuse. Luke received a suspended sentence for neglect. He deeply regretted his mistakes and broke down sobbing. "I failed to protect my wife and daughter. I'm truly sorry." Leaving the courthouse, Nina embraced her parents. "We won. Now I can protect Tara." Nina's mother gently stroked her daughter's cheek and said, "You've proven yourself to be a strong mother. Now a new life begins for you and Tara." Nina nodded through her tears, vowing in her heart to build a happy future with her daughter. Several weeks after the trial, Nina started a new life with Tara. She rented an apartment near her parents' home and began living with just her daughter. Nina worked hard to balance her job and childcare while cherishing her time with Tara. Though life as a single mother was challenging, seeing her daughter smile gave Nina the strength to keep going. One day when Nina returned from work, she found her mother Lily smiling gently while holding Tara. Lily said, "Looking after Tara until you return from work has become my daily routine." Nina expressed her gratitude to her mother. "Mom, thank you so much. I couldn't have continued working without your help." "Don't be silly. Supporting you as a mother is only natural." Hearing their conversation, Tara showed a cute smile. That smile filled both Nina and Lily with happiness. On weekends, they would go on family picnics with Nina's father Ed. At the park, Nina would play with Tara on the playground equipment. Ed watched his granddaughter's energetic figure and smiled, saying, "That child has grown strong, just like Nina." Nina nodded at her father's words. Tara has overcome those difficult experiences and now smiles so happily. I learned so much from her. These family moments became precious, irreplaceable times for Nina and Tara. Several years later, Nina met Aaron, a single father, through PTA activities. Aaron was raising his son Noah alone. As Nina shared parenting concerns with Aaron, she found herself drawn to his sincere and kind personality. Meanwhile, Aaron was captivated by Nina's strength and gentleness. The two gradually grew closer, taking their children to the park and having meals together. Tara and Noah had become good friends too. One day, Aaron approached Nina with a serious expression. "Nina, when I'm with you, my heart feels at peace. I want to become a family with you, and with Tara and Noah." Nina felt her heart warm at Aaron's words. "I feel happy when I'm with you too." But, seeing Nina's anxious expression, Aaron smiled gently. "Your past doesn't matter to me at all. In fact, I admire how you fought so hard for your daughter." Aaron took Nina's hand and said, "Will you marry me and create a new family together?" Though tears welled up in Nina's eyes, they were tears of joy. "Yes. I want to become a family with you." Nina decided to marry Aaron. Tara and Noah were overjoyed to be getting new parents. Nina reported the marriage to her parents. Her father Ed clasped Aaron's hand and said, "Aaron, I'm entrusting you with my daughter and Tara. They've found a wonderful family." Aaron responded with sincere eyes, "Father, Mother, I promise to do everything in my power to make them happy." Nina's mother Lily embraced Nina and Aaron, saying, "I pray for your happiness from the bottom of my heart. Cherish your new family bonds." On their wedding day, Nina stood beside Aaron, radiant in a stunning white dress. Tara served as the flower girl, while Noah was the ring bearer. Both children wholeheartedly celebrated the union of their new mom and dad. The minister asked Nina and Aaron to exchange their vows. Aaron took Nina's hand and spoke with eyes full of love. "Nina, meeting you has been the greatest joy of my life. Your strength and kindness have saved me countless times. I vow to protect and love you and Tara forever." Nina also gazed into Aaron's eyes as she spoke her vows. "Aaron, meeting you taught me how to love again. I'm deeply grateful for your kindness and understanding. I vow to build a happy home with you and Noah." As they exchanged their kiss of promise, the venue erupted in applause. Nina and Aaron began their new life as a happy family with Tara and Noah. Nina had overcome her painful past and found a loving family once again. The strength and courage she showed in protecting her daughter had opened the door to new happiness. Several years after Nina and Aaron's wedding, Tara had grown into an energetic elementary school student. One day, Tara came home from school and excitedly told Nina, "Mom, I got a perfect score on my math test today. The teacher praised me." Nina's eyes widened with surprise and joy as she looked at her daughter's report card. "That's wonderful, Tara. You worked so hard. Mama is so proud of you." As she hugged Tara and gently stroked her head, Nina was overwhelmed with emotion. Her daughter had grown into such a wonderful child after overcoming that difficult past. Nina felt renewed confidence that she had made the right decision in fighting to protect her. At dinner, Nina told Aaron about Tara's achievement. Aaron was genuinely delighted with his daughter's success. "Tara, you did such a great job. I'm proud of your grades too. I hope you'll continue to work hard, not just in studies, but in whatever you enjoy." Tara beamed with joy at her parents' words. "Yes, I will. I want to become a strong and kind woman like Mom. So I'll keep doing my best." Those words brought tears of joy to Nina and Aaron's eyes. Nothing made Nina happier than knowing her daughter looked up to her. "Tara, Mama will always be on your side. I'll support your dreams, no matter what." Tara smiled brightly at Nina's words. Noah was now in middle school, dedicating himself to baseball practice with his team. On weekends, the sight of Aaron and Noah practicing baseball in the yard had become a familiar scene for Nina and Tara. Nina and Aaron's marriage grew stronger with each passing year. They supported each other's careers and shared both the joys and struggles of raising children. Though they sometimes disagreed, they always overcame their differences through mutual respect and understanding. One weekend, Nina's family was enjoying a barbecue at Ed and Lily's home. Ed was delighted to hear about Tara's success at school. "Tara is such a smart girl. I'm looking forward to her future." Meanwhile, Lily watched her granddaughter's growth with deep emotion and spoke to Nina. "Because you fought to protect your daughter, Tara has grown into such a wonderful child. As your mother, I'm so proud of you." Nina's eyes welled up with happy tears at her mother's words. "Mom, I couldn't have made it through without you. Thanks to you, Dad, and Aaron's support, I was able to keep going. I can't thank you enough." Aaron gently squeezed his wife's hand and said, "Nina, our married life is my most precious treasure. I want to continue building a happy home with you and our children." Nina gazed into her husband's eyes, her heart overflowing with love. "Me too, Aaron. Nothing makes me happier than living life with you." Nina watched over Tara and Noah playing harmoniously together, surrounded by family bonds. Her daughter, who once suffered from her grandmother's abuse, now smiled so happily. Nina deeply felt that her decisions and courage had given her daughter a new life. As the delicious smell of barbecue wafted through the garden, Nina's family enjoyed their precious time together. This scene of family togetherness, filled with smiles, was pure happiness for Nina. The painful experiences of the past had made Nina stronger. And the bonds with her loving family had given Nina irreplaceable happiness. A mother's love, fighting to protect her daughter, had woven a beautiful family story. "I have a promotion exam coming up at work, and I need to buy study materials for it. Plus, if I don't work overtime, my salary will be lower," my husband Tanner said while we were discussing how to manage our finances after getting married. He explained that because of his exam preparation, he wouldn't be able to contribute as much to our household expenses. Since we both had jobs, I didn't think it was a problem. However, shortly after that, I began to notice something odd about Tanner's behavior: unfamiliar apps on his phone, sudden increase in overtime work, and most notably, not touching his food when we went out to eat. The waiter's strange hand movements also caught my attention. I felt like I'd seen those movements somewhere before. If my hunch was right, this could be serious trouble. I made an excuse about work and left the restaurant, deciding to keep my distance from Tanner. I was determined to uncover his suspicious behavior. He was wrong if he thought no one had noticed. I'm Aubrey, and I'm 38 years old. I work as a tax accountant, and both my professional and personal life are fulfilling. While I can proudly say that I enjoy both aspects of my life now, getting here wasn't easy. When I graduated from college, it was during an economic downturn, and finding a job was difficult. I was so fixated on the idea that I needed to work that I think I was just spinning my wheels at the time. After struggling with no progress, I finally landed a position at a small company. To be honest, I could say I was working there reluctantly. But then came a turning point in my life. Through business relationships and my experiences in sales, I noticed that workplaces, companies, lacked vitality. Many companies were struggling, unable to increase their profits as planned and worried about their future. I wanted to help companies improve their spirits and revenues, to create more workplaces where employees could work with smiles on their faces. This desire led me to pursue a career as a tax accountant, where I could be involved with company profits and performance and help drive growth. After years of study, I became a tax accountant at age 34. Going from a company employee at a small firm to a tax accountant might seem like an unusual career path, but it helped me finally find what I wanted to do. While my career was very fulfilling, I felt something was missing in my personal life. I realized what that emptiness was, the absence of a partner who would stand by me and help me through difficult times. On my days off, I only did things I could do alone, like watching movies or shopping. As my friends got married and had children, we spent less time together on weekends. While alone time can be fulfilling, I thought how wonderful it would be to share precious moments with someone special. At a friend's suggestion, I decided to try a dating app to meet compatible men. Among the several people I exchanged messages with, there was one man I felt particularly connected with, Tanner, who would later become my husband. Working for a well-known electronics manufacturer, he had an air of competence about him. His messages were smart, and I appreciated how easy it was to communicate with him without feeling pressured. I remember when we first met in person, I could easily picture myself being with him. "Nice to meet you, though after all our messages on the app, it doesn't really feel like a first meeting," I said. "You're right. It feels like we've known each other for a long time," he replied. If this is what they call chemistry, I was amazed at how comfortable the conversation and atmosphere felt. I never knew being able to date someone without feeling tense could be so pleasant. Plus, Tanner carried himself with such sophistication, which I found attractive. "This might surprise you since we just met, but I'd like to date you with marriage in mind," he said. "I'm so happy. I've been hoping to date someone wonderful like you," I replied. It didn't take long to go from dating with marriage in mind to actually getting married. I'll never forget how Tanner proposed at a beautiful oceanside restaurant, holding a bouquet of roses. "Aubrey, I promise to make you happy. Please be with me. Let's get married. Yes, I'd love to. Please take care of me. Finally, I was going to marry Tanner. It might have been a bit later than others, but marriage isn't about age. What matters more than when you marry is who you marry, and above all, whether you can be happy together. You need to be certain you can be happy with that person. However, it seems I was the only one thinking this way. I didn't want to notice the dark shadow creeping over our married life. Since we both worked, we agreed to put money for living expenses in a joint account and keep the rest separate for personal use, thinking it would be good for each of us to have some financial freedom. During our discussion about how much we would each contribute, Tanner brought up something concerning. About the money for our joint account, would it be okay if I put in less than you? Less? Well, if you don't mind, could you tell me why? Tanner seemed hesitant but finally explained, I have a promotion exam coming up at work, and I need to buy study materials for it. Plus, if I don't work overtime, my salary will be lower. Oh, I see. It must be tough preparing for an exam while working. I understand. I'll help however I can. Really? You're so understanding, Aubrey. Tanner clapped his hands with joy. Well, it's an important exam for your career. We need to make sure you can do your best. I remembered my own struggles when I was studying for the tax accountant exam. Since I had quit my job to focus on studying, I could imagine how challenging it must be to study while working. Don't worry about the money. Just focus on preparing for your promotion exam. Thank you. You're the best, Aubrey. So, when is the exam? In 8 months. It's a bit far off. Seeing Tanner happy about being able to focus on studying, I convinced myself this was the right decision. However, right after we made this arrangement, Tanner's work pattern changed dramatically. What? Another business trip the day after tomorrow. Business trips suddenly increased right after we decided how much to put in our joint account. Can't help it, can I? It's a company order. But don't you need to prepare for your upcoming promotion exam? Do you really need to go on so many business trips? What are you saying? You want me to disobey orders and not go on the trips? Tanner glared at me, seeming somewhat tense. That's not what I mean, I'm just worried. Then don't interfere. This is my chance to prove myself. I understand. Just don't push yourself too hard. They say men become blind to everything else when they focus on work. Maybe Tanner was that type. I've been with this company for a long time, but I want to expand my work responsibilities. That would be great. I'm supporting you. Tanner looked satisfied, but I failed to notice what lay behind that expression. Tanner started bringing work home. I tried to be careful not to disturb him while he was focusing on work. It was a bit constraining, but it was for Tanner's sake. Then one day, a notification sound rang through our quiet living room. Oh, that's Tanner's phone. Just as Tanner had gone to the bathroom, consecutive notification sounds rang from his phone. Thinking it might be important work-related messages that I should tell him about when he returned, I casually picked up his phone. That's when I noticed something odd. An app with a light blue background and sparkly characters was displayed prominently. Tanner usually only used his phone for work, but this app didn't look like something used for business. Could it be a dating app? But he shouldn't need one now that we're married. As I was tilting my head in confusion, Tanner returned from the bathroom. "Hey, my phone." "Hey." "Oh, your phone kept ringing, so I was going to hand it to you. I thought it might be important work stuff." "Hey, don't do unnecessary things." He snatched the phone from my hand with a loud noise. "I'm sorry, but you didn't have to grab it like that." "Geez, doing unnecessary things. I haven't told people at work that I'm married, so they'd be surprised if you suddenly answered the phone." While checking his phone screen frantically, Tanner explained. True, his company was so large that people probably didn't keep track of who was married and who wasn't. Still, he became so irritable just because I tried to hand him his phone. Perhaps work wasn't going well. Given how his mood always reflected his work situation, that must be it. After that day when Tanner showed his irritation, I became even more careful around him. I didn't want him making accusations that I was causing problems with his work. However, perhaps noticing my concern, Tanner approached me. "Hey, are you free after work this Thursday? I should be done around 7 o'clock. Did something come up?" "Well, I feel bad about the other day. As a sort of apology, want to go for drinks?" Seeing Tanner's slightly awkward, sheepish expression, I felt relieved. I immediately agreed. "That sounds nice. But it's unusual for you to suggest drinks. What's the occasion?" When I playfully asked, Tanner relaxed and started talking. "Don't say that. I just started working on developing new clients, and it's going well. I wanted to share this happiness with you." "Oh, is that so? I thought you looked stressed lately, probably handling difficult cases. I'm glad it's working out. How about we meet at the station and then go to the restaurant?" Before we got married, we often went to various bars and enjoyed drinking together. We both liked having casual conversations, and we shared a hobby of enjoying the marriage of drinks and appetizers. Recently, we hadn't had time to explore new places due to our busy work schedules, but this seemed like a good opportunity. Since restaurants near the station change frequently, there might be some interesting new places. I was looking forward to our promised date. On that day, I finished work early to make sure I wouldn't be late for our meeting. Come to think of it, we used to bar hop around this area before getting married. I felt excited remembering those times. "Hey, over here. Now, where should we go?" As we walked side by side through the entertainment district, we found a bar with an interesting sign. It didn't have flashy decorations, but each small ornament seemed refined. The tile decorations showed sophisticated patterns. The open sign listed delicious-sounding dishes and highlighted special points. Apparently, they had the bartender's recommended drinks that day. Though I'd never seen it before, something about it attracted drink enthusiasts. "Hey, shall we try this place?" I felt excited about this new discovery on a street I'd walked many times. "Huh. This place. Shouldn't we look around more? There are plenty of other places. But they have various drinks and dishes here. Plus it's stylish. Wouldn't it be nice to try something different? What? Since when did you care about being stylish? Have you gone crazy? I can't deal with you starting to do things that don't suit you. While there was no absolute reason we had to go to this particular place, such strong rejection made me wonder if something was wrong. I just thought this place looked nice. Is there something wrong with it? Tanner let out a big sigh as if giving up. Fine, fine. Whatever you say. His childish sulking concerned me. Had I done something wrong by suggesting this place? Lately, I couldn't understand Tanner's moods. Inside the bar, there was a counter and tables. A male bartender stood at the counter with what appeared to be a female trainee beside him. The bartender seemed to glance at us briefly, giving me an unsettling feeling. Perhaps because they had just opened, there were no other customers. It felt like we had the place to ourselves. We sat at a table in the back and opened the food menu. Let's start with some simple appetizers, and maybe beer. I closed the menu and placed our order using the nearby touch panel. So even bars use tablets for ordering now, except at the counter. It's nice not having to call a waiter. Oh, yes. Tanner's response seemed somewhat distant. The trainee brought our drinks and food. She looked at my face with a puzzled expression. Was there something on my face? Maybe I looked exhausted from coming straight from work. I took the food from her and placed it on the table. Everything looked delicious: a jillo, pickles, and a piping hot gratin. It was hard to decide what to eat first. Tanner and I each had our ordered beers in front of us. Cheers to your work success. I raised my glass with extra enthusiasm, trying to lift the mood. Then I immediately started on the food in front of me. I was starving since I'd missed lunch due to sudden work during my break. With such delicious-looking dishes in front of me, I couldn't resist. Besides, I needed to eat something to avoid getting drunk too quickly on an empty stomach. I reached for the closest dish, the gratin. The hot white sauce and creamy cheese blended perfectly. It was incredibly delicious. It warmed my tired, chilled body. Glancing at Tanner, I noticed he was just sipping his beer bit by bit. Taking tiny sips of beer wasn't like him. Also, his gaze seemed to be wandering. Aren't you eating? Was Tanner not fond of gratin? As I wondered about this, I served myself another portion. If you're not going to eat, I'll have it. I missed lunch today. As I was laughing and serving myself more gratin, I caught the trainee's eye. She was making an unusual movement, placing her right index finger on her upturned left palm and making circular motions. While wondering what that strange movement meant, something occurred to me. The motion of touching the index finger to the palm and making circles, it was sign language for drug. She was standing at an angle where only I could see her signing, so she must have something she wanted to convey only to me. I quickly put down the gratin I was holding and decided to head to the bathroom with my phone. Sorry, I need to use the bathroom. Oh. Are you feeling unwell? Just a bit. Don't worry about me, keep eating. I had a feeling it would be better not to stay at this bar any longer. Maybe I should leave first. I decided to make an excuse about work and slip out. I hurried back from the bathroom and spoke to Tanner. Sorry, I just got a call from work, so I need to go. Oh? That's too bad. Yes, I'm sorry. Will you keep drinking? I think I will. I pretended to return to work but decided to stay at a nearby hotel instead. The bar worker's message, Tanner's expressions and gestures, something felt off, and I felt I shouldn't dismiss it as just my imagination. My head felt like it might explode from overthinking, so I checked my phone to calm down. As I hadn't had much time to use my phone lately, I was browsing news when I noticed an interesting advertisement. An app advertisement titled "How to Meet Your Soulmate" was the same as the one I'd seen on Tanner's phone. Those non-stop notifications I'd thought were work-related, that was it. I involuntarily covered my opened mouth with both hands. Why would a married person need an app for meeting potential partners? Plus, I knew these kinds of apps were trending, with new ones being advertised all over town. So someone looking to meet others would likely use multiple apps. Given Tanner's efficiency-minded personality, he probably used several. I had a bad feeling about this. For now, I decided to download the same app Tanner was using and register as a member. It was that light blue app I'd glimpsed on his phone. After registering my name and basic profile, I tried using it right away. If Tanner was using this app, I might be able to expose his true identity. I told Tanner I was staying at the hotel because work wasn't finished. The next day, I took a day off and ventured into town from the hotel. I bought a brown long-haired wig and a hat, took profile photos, and started searching for matches. I created a profile that wouldn't reveal my identity and began searching. By entering the local area, age range, and hobbies, the number of potential matches narrowed down considerably. When I entered the name of a niche game Tanner liked, the number decreased dramatically, making the search easier. Though I'd hoped I was wrong, I found what appeared to be Tanner's profile and quickly matched with him. I exchanged messages with Tanner carefully so he wouldn't recognize me. In the app, Tanner claimed he was single, worked at a manufacturer, and enjoyed watching American football and having barbecues on his days off. From his manner of writing, he clearly didn't realize he was messaging me. After confirming that Tanner was using the app to meet women, I moved on to my next strategy. That night, after returning home, I planted a GPS device in our car, hiding it in the pocket of a cardigan I'd left in there. Then I returned home acting normal. Given how actively Tanner was using these apps, he probably wasn't messaging just one person. Welcome home. Work was really tough yesterday after you left. Do you have any plans this weekend? I have to go out for work, so I probably won't get to rest this weekend. I see. That must be tough. I was thinking of going shopping, but I'll just go by myself then. Okay. Have a good time. I watched as he headed to the bathroom with his phone. I already knew he'd been using our shared computer to search for tourist spots in the neighboring town. He'd looked up boat ride schedules, good bakeries, scenic parks, and hotels with night views. He'd even searched for gifts for girlfriend and proposal lines. This woman must be his main target. I decided to make my move this weekend. Saturday morning, Tanner left saying, "Well, I'm off to work." Man, working on days off is such a drag. It really is. Take care. After watching Tanner drive away, I set out to catch him in the act. I booked a room at the hotel he'd searched for and first monitored his movements from there. The GPS showed he was indeed heading to the neighboring town. I watched as the pin moved from the boat dock to fancy cafes. I planned to confront him at the park with the night view. Since he was driving, I could easily imagine he'd park near the scenic park to enjoy the view for a while. I went to the park around sunset and observed the area. Sure enough, a familiar car pulled into the parking lot. Out stepped Tanner and an unknown woman. Tanner had his hand around her waist, escorting her to the best viewpoint. After they walked away from the car, I slipped into the back seat. I crouched down under the seat, waiting for them to return. Soon enough, they came back, satisfied with their view. "Wow, that was really beautiful. Just thinking about spending a wonderful night with you makes my heart race," Tanner said as he sat in the driver's seat. The other woman sat in the passenger seat. I rose from the back seat and wrapped my arms around Tanner's body in a hug from behind. "So, what's this all about?" Tanner jumped in surprise, then turned around with a guilty expression. "Well, this is. So you were planning to propose to your main girlfriend at a park with a night view. Did you think you could get away with cheating so easily?" Tanner's face turned pale in the dark car. His ghostly white complexion floating in the darkness was almost scarier than an actual ghost. "How did you plan to keep deceiving me while cheating? And that day at the bar, you were trying to drug me, weren't you? Working with the bartender." "What? How?" Tanner was still flustered. "How did I know?" "Want to know? Your behavior at that bar was strange. When I looked up reviews of that bar, several women reported getting unusually drunk there. I thought it was suspicious that all the complaints were from women." "So what?" Tanner was still acting tough, apparently not understanding his situation. "That bartender, was he your friend?" "What a scoundrel." "After that, I met with the female worker from the bar again, and she told me about the women you brought there." "Women I brought?" "Yes. She said you brought different women each time. They all got so drunk they could barely walk. Women might get drunk more easily than men, but getting that drunk at a bar is strange, isn't it?" Tanner bit his lip, seemingly at a loss for words. The woman working there said she thought it was just her imagination at first, but she started to realize something was wrong. That's why she secretly told me. "Just because people who drank with me got wobbly, you're suspecting me?" I was exasperated by Tanner's stubborn denial. I took out a pen. It was a pen I'd secretly placed in Tanner's bag. "Actually, this is a pen with recording capabilities. I turned it on, so it recorded your conversations at the bar. You know what this means, right? Tanner's face turned even paler. I'd never seen him so pale before. Without hesitation, I pressed play. The recording clearly captured him thanking someone for putting drugs that would make people drunk easily into the food ordered with drinks. I can't believe you were doing something like this. Tanner seemed frustrated at being constantly called out by me and exploded in anger. You should be grateful I even married a leftover like you. Sneaking around doing detective work. Tanner angrily threw his bag on the ground. Moreover, the woman in the passenger seat glared at me and said something outrageous. You're the one holding Tanner back, aren't you? No wonder you're disliked, doing such sneaky things. I would never do something like that. This woman was clearly Tanner's affair partner. Her name was Jackie. She was clinging to Tanner like a lovesick puppy. I knew he was married, but I'm better suited for him. The other women were just for fun, right? I'm going to be happy with Tanner. Better suited. He works at a manufacturer and is getting promoted soon. He said I could be a full-time housewife, and he'll be the perfect husband. She seemed to be misunderstanding something. That man you want to marry is about to get fired. Pretty funny to think about your future husband getting fired. Jackie looked surprised but quickly started making a fuss. That's a lie. Tanner wouldn't get fired. Isn't that going too far, just because you're upset about being cheated on? When Tanner said this, I showed him a piece of paper. I contacted your company before about something. Apparently, you were lying about business trips while having overnight dates with this woman. The paper I held showed his schedule, proving he had filed false business trip reports. The company was shocked and they found out about your work habits. They said they're terminating your contract immediately. A confused Jackie interrupted. Terminating his contract? What do you mean? But you said you were becoming an assistant manager. I couldn't help but laugh. Jackie, is that what he told you? You didn't even know he was a contract employee. Jackie looked like she didn't know what to believe. I don't understand what you see in a contract worker who drugs women for his own desires, but if you want him, you can have him. What? No thanks. I don't want anything to do with a man who's getting fired. As Jackie tried to get out of the car and walk away, I stuck out my foot in front of her, causing her to fall spectacularly. She hit the ground face first with considerable force. What's your problem? You knew he was married but still tried to cheat with him and steal him away. You were prepared for the consequences of being the other woman, right? Now it was Jackie's turn to turn pale. Oh no. I can't pay any compensation. I don't have that kind of money. How embarrassing to be unable to take responsibility for your actions at your age. And having no money is clearly your own fault, due to your lack of ability. Hey, you don't need to go that far, Tanner said, wrapping his arms around Jackie protectively. I've had enough of your charade. This woman who planned to steal you away knowing you were married, and you who planned to drug women at bars with the bartender, you're perfect for each other. I started walking away from Tanner and Jackie. I really can't pay any compensation. Tanner, you'll take care of everything, right? Hey, wait, you need to handle your own part. How cruel. You're betraying me too. I thought I heard them arguing behind me. I was surprised to hear the word betray from Jackie. But none of that mattered to me anymore. I went home and packed only the essentials before leaving. After that, Tanner called multiple times wanting to reconcile, but I ignored them all. Once, I answered a call from an unknown number, only to find it was Tanner. Please, anything but divorce. Listen, are you in any position to say you don't want a divorce? But if we divorce now, I can't survive. Can't you wait until I find a new job? I let out a big sigh. You want me to support you until you find a new job? No way. Why don't you cry to your mistress Jackie? Tanner suddenly shouted, I can't do something that pathetic. But I wasn't intimidated by that. Pathetic? Something that pathetic. Who was the one doing pathetic things to me without hesitation? Tanner fell silent. Anyway, from now on, communication will be through lawyers. I was able to successfully claim compensation through the lawyers. Though since Tanner had lost his job, his parents had to cover the payment. I heard he's now working as a construction site worker from morning till night, introduced by his parents. However, apparently he's having a hard time because his colleagues dislike him due to his bad personality and sarcastic remarks. As for his mistress Jackie, I heard she was fired after her workplace affair was discovered. An acquaintance who worked at the same company as Jackie told me that until the very end, she was making a scene at work, insisting I did nothing wrong. After that, I officially divorced Tanner and am now enjoying life on my own. Both work and private life are going well, and I'm so happy I divorced Tanner. Recently, I've been working with more clients as a tax accountant, and many people tell me, I'm glad I chose you. Hearing such words makes me feel that pursuing this career was worth it. Maybe marrying Tanner was a mistake, but I don't regret it because it helped me develop the strength to choose my own life. By the way, I ran into that trainee from the bar at a shopping center afterward, and we hit it off. Since then, we occasionally meet for tea. I was touched when she told me how happy she was that the sign language she learned at a sign language circle came in handy in such a way. Apparently, she hadn't known I was Tanner's wife at the time, and that episode still comes up as a funny story between us. I should be grateful that I can live peacefully now like this.